Okay, welcome back. It's time we kicked on with this next project, and as you can see, it's a Yamaha. It's a WR400, so it is 2000 model. So I picked this up a little while ago as a bit of a project. So it's a runner, and most things work on it, but it's had a pretty rough life. I think it's just been ridden to death, so it doesn't look too bad just with a quick sort of look over, but we'll go through it a little bit more in a minute. But it's pretty much all there. It's had a few different bits put on it. I think this the seat is the YZ. This rear mudguard is YZ as well. So someone's taken all the road gear off this and just basically converted it into a dirt bike. So I can say when this does run, it is loud. Yeah, due to this thing here. We'll have a bit of a deeper dive into this thing and just see what sort of condition things are in. So first up, we'll start up the front here. Tyre's reasonable. You can see we're missing our speedo drive, but that doesn't matter because there is no speedo. Forks look in decent condition. Doesn't look like there's anything leaking. Hard to tell about the brakes, although we'll give those a go in a second. Pretty sure we've got some movement in this front wheel. Yeah, the bearings are wobbly, so need some new bearings there. We've got our clutch that's working here. Kill switch, that's all going. Decompression lever under here, so that's all going. I do know the clutch cable is, yeah, there you go. It's getting a bit frayed there, so we're going to need a new clutch cable. Obviously I've had a quick look over this before I started this video, so got a bit of an idea on sorts of things we need. Front brake, the lever's broken, but we've got some pressure there. I'd say that's working fine. Haven't had the seat off, so I've got no idea what's in our airbox there, but we can get into that soon enough. Now this thing does start and run, but it takes 3 kicks to get going, and then it'll run and splutter out, so obviously we're going to have a good look in there. So we've got no chain. The sprocket looks half decent. Let's have a quick look at this back one while we're onto the sprocket. Aluminium. So I've seen a lot worse than that, so I think that will get us going. So now that we're on the back wheel, this thing is kind of flapping in the breeze, and all of this stuff is flapping in the breeze, so I'd say it's obviously been off and someone hasn't bolted it all back up properly yet, so we've got a bit of looking into there to do. So I can see down in there our rear brake pads are worn to just about nothing, so we can sort those out as well. There's actually a protector that's missing off here. This one's pretty banged up, so we might look into getting something like another one of those. Our rear brake here, here's our cylinder, and we've got a little thing here, a little joiner that's missing, so I've got something lined up for that, a little homemade bit. Anyway, the rest of it is all complete, everything's there. It's not too banged up, it's just got a few rough edges and a bit of a tune. So anyway, let's get it up on the bike lift and we can start digging into it. Right, so we'll start with something nice and easy, I think, just to get ourselves in the zone, and we'll swap out this clutch cable. Nice easy job. Right, so it seems in order to get this protector off, we have to take this off, and we run into our first snag with that. Lovely, just the thing you want to see, but well, we'll sort that out. But yeah. So we have two 12mm adjusting nuts here. That should just, yep, come loose nicely. So here we have a nice new cable from those guys, and we'll compare it to the old one. So obviously that's looks different because it's not tucked in, but this end we've got our adjuster, and that all looks good. So one thing I'm noticing straight away, here's the old cable, and to move this, it's a big effort. To move the new one, yeah, there you go. Right, so this thing goes on, then that. We'll get this in here. So I've swapped these dead screws out for some good ones now, so I've got all sorts of bits and pieces that I've kept as spares over the years. So usually I'm swapping these things out for, say, Allen keys, and if they're any good like this, then I keep it. Perfect occasion to use it. Okay, so I've had to do a whole pile of messing around with this, you wouldn't believe. So it ends up that this cable is a slightly different length to the OEM one. So I've had to be messing with the length of this adjuster here, and I had to come up with a bit of an engineering solution down here. This here is one of the adjusters that I was just showing you, this bit. Yeah, so this is kind of sitting in, and that bit there is taking the extra bit of cable. I think the outer is shorter, which is giving you more cable to take up. Still loose there, but once I've adjusted the slack, there's a little bit of slack there, and we've got all of our adjustment basically here. So once I've adjusted this up properly, take that slack out, that bit down the bottom there shouldn't come out, and just have to reassemble this. So I'll do that and we're done. So much for an easy one to kick off with. Huh? Right, so for our next easy job, we'll try replacing this. We've got a new one here. It's looking the same, so we'll see how we get on with that. Okay, so the next bit to get off will be this. Once that's off, this should all slide off. Then we just have to retrieve this pin from the old one. It's got a little circlip on the bottom, so we just take that off, swap it over, and the new one should go straight on. Famous last words. So let's get on with that. So I've ended up putting the kill switch on this side as well. It was over there, but the telltale it was in the wrong spot was that it was upside down. It's the right way up now, and nice and easy to access. Right, so we'll do this brake linkage for our next job. Here's my little part. That has to thread onto here, and then I've got to get a pin to go through there. So that's not quite fitting, and that's a lot smaller than that is. So I don't have the pin for there, so this could get interesting. Right, so this is what I've come up with. I've drilled that out, pretty much the same size as that. Got my bolt, cut that off to pretty much the right length. So that's going to go through there. I wanted a bolt that's got no thread on there, so it's not munching in here, you know, like that. It's actually got a smooth face on it, so that can go through. It's a little tight, so there's not much movement, up and down movement, so it's not going to flop around. I've got a nylock to go on behind it. This has got a lock nut up in here, so we'll thread that on there, and that'll give us some adjustment, and that'll lock it up. And I'll put a bit of grease on that. I might actually take this apart while I'm here, just make sure that's got plenty of lube inside so it doesn't jam up. It's pretty free, but I'm here, so I might as well do it. And we'll get that together, and it should work. So I'm glad that I checked these things, because this centre spindle there was really crusty. So even though the brake arm moved freely, this was just crustied and bad. So I mean, there's some O-rings on here, so it's supposed to stop that stuff getting in. I've got 2 new ones here, so I'll put them on. We'll wax some lithium grease on this, which is waterproof, and that should be all looked after. Then we'll get this on. Right, so it seems that my little part is not going to work. It's just too long. So I might have to cut that down. You can see this is way up here. Should be down there. So this is a piece that I had fitted on there, and this is the bit I was going to chop off, but I managed to come up with this piece here, which is just about perfect. So the way I'm going to lock it on this thread, it's got a nut here that fits just about spot on. Yep. Let's do it that way. Fits in there. Almost perfect. So we'll get that on, and hopefully this time around it'll work. Okay, so we are all connected now. We've got a little bit of play in there, not a great deal. The height here is much better to the foot peg. It's not a lot of travel, so I don't know how well this is working, but we've got to start somewhere. Right, so I'm curious about this back brake, if it's actually going to do anything. So I've got the back wheel up off the ground, but I'll give it a bit of a spin. You can hear the disc dragging a bit there, but that does nothing. Give it a good hard push. It's absolutely nothing. So I might crack the bleeder here just to see if it's actually pumping anything through. So either this is frozen, it's not frozen, but it's perhaps partially, or the caliper is. So I'll just check that out. Right, so there's absolutely nothing coming out of there. So I'm just going to take this cover off here. Here's our reservoir. So I'll see what's in there and we'll give it another try. Can see something in there. So it's not completely dry. They are stuck. So I'm going to take this off, see if it, or loosen it at least, see if I can get any flow coming out of here. 17 mil. Whew. Oh yes, look at that. Much more. Look at how much it's travelling now. see how much more trouble this has got. Much more. And there's fluid coming out. Well, there's not much coming out now because what was left in here is pretty much just drained out, but at least I know I can bleed that again. But that's free, so there's no pressure coming through this line. Right, so it took a bit of doing to get these off. They're a bit worse for wear, but I'll get some fluid back in this reservoir if I can get it off. And we'll give that brake a pump and see if we can get some fluid to go through this line and come out this banjo here. There's nothing coming out of here at the moment, so we'll crack it there. If nothing comes out there, then we know this line is blocked. Look what's coming out of it, just filth. So I can't get anything on that, so it seems like I might have to disassemble this caliper and see what I can do, because either way it's not working and this is all going to come off sometime, so maybe getting this back wheel and all this off is my next job. Holy crap! Whoa, that was tight. There's not much left of those. There we go. Look at those sliders. They just pitted to hell. Look how far that piston's out too, and that's why I couldn't get anything on it, because it's not a hex, it's an Allen. Okay, let's regroup and try that all again. I can't believe how far that piston's out. It should be right back in here. Right, so I've got my special piston compressing tool here. I'm just going to see if I can get that to go back in at all. I've got this loose, so we'll see how we get on. And it's going back in easily, so there's fluid coming out there, plenty of it. Okay. Let's just put that in there to hold it still a bit. Yow. Okay, we'll give that back brake pedal a push, see what comes out. Nothing. I think this brake line is clogged. It's got to be. No. So this hose is also very perished. I don't know if that's showing up very well, but that's all split. So I think I won't worry about trying to unclog it. I'll just get a new one. So I wasn't too sure before, but now I'm definite. This back wheel, the bearings in it are absolutely shot. So hopefully you can pick that up. I'll just use my little wireless microphone and see if I can capture the noise coming out of these bearings. So we do have a bit of a buckle, or a bit of a dent in this rim. I've marked it here. You can see there's a bit of an air gap there where it's sort of sticking out a bit further. I'll show you just how much it's sticking out. So with a bit of luck I'll be able to let some air out of this tyre, get a bit of wood and my whack and hammer, give that a bit of a whack, see if I can just push that back in. I know aluminium doesn't like to be bent back and forwards, but we'll just see how we get on, and hopefully I might be able to improve on that. Okay, we've come to a bit of a decision time. What parts to replace, and where should we save money and where should we spend money? So I've got some pretty flogged out parts on this bike, and these brakes aren't any exception. Probably one part that demonstrates it is this, the movement here. Another thing is, this is our slider that goes in here. This comes with the kit, this rubber, the rebuild kit. So you got the piston seal, you get this, pretty sure that comes with this pin as well, but it doesn't come with this. So even though this is pretty flogged in here, there's a lot of movement, getting a new one of these will improve on that, but this is pretty stuffed. So I don't think you can get this on its own, pretty sure you can't, and the pin, it's really chewed right here, so it needs a new pin. So anyway, that's with the rebuild kit. So rebuild kit is about, let's say $50 Australian. The whole setup, this, all of that is just over $100, about $130 delivered. So I'm kind of leaning towards that, because then it's just new. Also, the crap that came out of this is a little concerning to me. Usually when aluminium corrodes, it goes grey. If there's any fluid in there, it turns the fluid grey, so I'm suspecting there's corrosion in there. I think this thread's been hacked off too short anyway, so I don't know. The reservoir here, this is bulged out here. See there? Doesn't fit properly anymore. These are chewed, they're corroded, so I'm talking myself into replacing the whole brake system. And even though it's a little bit of a sting on the wallet, it's probably the best move in the long run. Okay, we've had some parts come in, and first I'll show you our rear wheel bearing set has come in from these guys. Let's have a quick look, see what you get in here. Okay, we've got two seals, 3 bearings, We also have a nice new brake line from these guys. There's the part number. So it's a nice Yamaha blue. Comes with some new copper washers. And get a load of this nice bit of kit. That's a whole new assembly for here. So we've got to get some of these little bolts out of here into here, but look how sweet that looks. We also have a new master cylinder. Oops, wrong way up. That's it there. I'll do a comparison when we're swapping this out. The reservoir's a bit different, but we'll work out how that's going to mount. So we've got our whole new rear braking system ready to go. So we'll get that on, but first we'll get this back wheel off, get these bearings and seals swapped out, and then we'll reassemble it and put the new brakes on as we go. Okay, so this bike's rapidly turning into the gift that just keeps giving. You'll notice I've stripped the tyre off this. So the reason I did that, when I was trying to take one of the dents out of the rim, one of these spoke nipples broke. So yeah, I was in the process of trying to find a replacement. I just happened to notice this was a 19 by 2.15, and what came on the WRF 2000 model was an 18 215. So this is the same size as the WR400f and who knows what else. So this is not the right rim for this bike. But after some deliberation, I've decided to just go with it. Basically because it's right here and I've got a tyre that fits it and everything. All I have to do is find a nipple to replace that spoke. So that brings into question the wheel bearing set, and I've had a look at these sizes here, and the set that I've got is too small. So I've looked up the 426 kit, and that's got a bigger seal like this one. So yeah, I can't put the new bearings in this at the moment, but I can pull the old ones out. So here's our old bearings and seals. You can see the only one that's resembling the size is this one. Even then it's bigger. So it seems the 2001 model onwards, bearings are bigger. So I managed to get half a dozen new nipples, and very similar to the old ones. So we'll see, quick check, yep, that fits fine, so we'll get that in. I think there's another one we'll replace as well because it's got the edge rounded off. So that went in really nicely. Here's our rounded off one here, so we'll put a new one in there as well. Right, so we have a new set of bearings arrived. Hopefully these ones are correct. So let's get them out of the packet and compare them with the old ones. So straight off the bat, these are looking the same. Alright, finally on a winner. So let's get these into here. And by the way, you'll notice I've got the tyre back on again, so we're all ready to move forwards. So I'm not sure how obvious it was when I removed these old bearings, but this one on the drive side pretty much fell out. So I'm just going to test fit the old one. Just get past that little lip at the top. Yep, it just drops in. So that should have to be pressed in or tapped in or something, not just fall in. So here's the new one, and same thing. So I'm going to have to get a bit of Loctite bearing retaining compound in there just to take that up, because I don't really want that moving around. This is the drive side, so it gets hammered the most, so we want this fitting nice and tight. So here's what I'm going to use, Loctite retaining compound. It's high strength, super high temp. It's probably a bit over spec'd, but hopefully that'll hold it. This is getting a little bit old now, so with a bit of luck it'll still work properly. Okay, I'll just pop a little bit of grease around the edge of this seal so it'll slide in without binding, and we've got the right size tool just to tap it in nicely. So just a quick test fit of the old bearing, and it's not tightest of fits either, just about goes all the way in by itself. So I'm going to put some Loctite in this side too. But first, let's not forget that. Okay, ready for our circlip. So the way I've been taught to put these in, you've got a curved side, you've got a flat side. So if the force is pushing this way, you want the flat side to sit in the groove, not the round side, because it'll tend to slip over that curve. So you want the flat side away from the force being applied. And when you're done, the circlip should spin in the groove like that. That shows that it's seated correctly. So while I was looking at the diagram online to see how this thing went together, well, more so if there was any bits missing, and I did notice this dust cap was on the diagram, and of course it never came off. So I've got two of them, one each side, so when I'm assembling it, that will go on. So I've taken out the adjusters that were in here because these have been bodged up as well. You can see that one's a nylock nut, and not sure if you can tell, but it's bent. This one looks more like the original, but me being me, only has to be a little bit on the dodgy side. Gives me an excuse to buy something nice and new. So I'll fit those, and then we'll get on with putting that back wheel in. These are stainless, by the way, so I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the thread just in case it wants to gall on the aluminium. Okay, so I've just done a quick mock-up of the rear axle and the new brake caliper assembly, mainly because I wanted to see how much up and down movement this had. If you remember, the old one was clanking up and down a whole heap, and I thought it was wear in the main body. It turns out that it was, but not all the wear was in there. There was some wear on this little channel here. So what I've done, I don't know if that's going to show, but I've put a little packing piece in there, and I've arrow dotted that in, so that's taken up the wear, and now this thing has no up and down movement at all. So that's worked out really well. So these dust caps fit over these spaces here that go in there. I'm only saying that because I didn't realise that until I went to fit them. Like I say, they weren't here when I took this apart, so I wasn't sure how they went. Anyway, this bit sits in there, so I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on here so it doesn't bind on the way in, and we should be just about set. Get this back wheel on. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, I've just put this disc guard on. I almost forgot to put it on. I bought that second hand, but it's not broken. It's a bit dirty, but it's all nice now. But I had to take all this back off just because I couldn't get to that bolt there. But that's the way it goes. I've got this guard to go on here. Yeah, like that. Of course that broke when I was cleaning it, so hopefully that'll be fine. But I'll put that on once I've got all these things tightened up and I've bled the system. Right, so we've got our master cylinder on, we've got our brake switch on. I had a little bit of a drama just routing this. You can see how that's got a nice twist in it back there, but that fitting there, it's kind of just straight down like that, so it was either point it downwards or point it upwards. Pointing it upwards, it made the hose touch on the exhaust and it started to get a bit close to the spring there. It was on this end, so I really don't know how you could have kicked that up at a 45. It didn't bend that way, it went that way, so I swapped them over. That fit perfect. This I had a little bit of a drama with, but I'm okay with how that's routed. So we'll tighten those fittings up. I'll get this bit of hose on, and I need a split pin to hold that on, and we should be able to bleed this. Okay, so that's those back brakes working. Pretty good actually, considering that those pads haven't bedded in yet. I'm going to call this video here because it's getting a bit long, but we got a whole heap done, more than I expected as far as what we had to do with this back wheel and waiting for parts and all that. I mean, I didn't expect to do this much work just on this bit of the bike. So there's all the rest of the bike to go, but I know that this is all spot on now. So we'll come back in part 2 and we'll kick on with a whole heap more on this bike, and hopefully we can get everything that I want to get done knocked over. So I'd like to thank everyone who has subscribed to my channel for being so patient. It's been extended periods of time in between videos, but I'm working on that, trying to get life things sorted so that I can get back to doing these sorts of things, the things that I really enjoy. Okay, until then, thanks for watching, and if you like the content, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later. Oh, and by the way, there's the guard for the brake caliper that I almost forgot to fit.